Hey guys, welcome to the HVAC Diaries. Today is Friday, December 8th, and this is my weekly HVAC vlog brought to you by New Calgon. Did you guys have a good week? A good productive week? Before I start my vlog, I just want to give you a quick update on my dad, and he is doing so well. He is recovering like a champion. It is so cool to see. I think his biggest concern right now, though, is being bored at home, just spending so many hours at home. In fact, yesterday, he actually went out with Trev yesterday to do a job. He didn't do any work. He just got out of the house. And then after that one job, he said he was quite tired. So I think next week he's going to try and go back to work. And we're going to have to say, no, Dad, take it easy. You have to recover. I mean, literally, this happened 2 weeks ago. Yesterday. 2 weeks ago yesterday. So, take it easy, Dad. Alright, are you guys ready for some HVAC adventures? Of course you are. That's why you're here. So, our week was okay. We got some stuff done. I wouldn't say there was anything super exciting or super terrible. We did spend a couple of days back at the metal foundry with the air dryer that I spoke about last week. And actually, I had Trevor on. I'm going to have Trevor on the vlog explaining that air dryer situation because he'll do a much better job than I would. But I'll have that a little bit later on in the vlog. Today was probably the most interesting day. We replaced a compressor on a cooler at a pizza place. Now, this is like a high-end kind of pizza place, a sit-down restaurant, not really a fast food place. And yeah, their compressor was dead. So that's the job that Trevor and my dad went on yesterday. They diagnosed a dead compressor, but luckily there was one locally available. So we went back there today and replaced it. Basically did a little bit of a heart transplant on the cooler. Also this week we did HVAC maintenance on 2 locations, completely separate, very, very different. One was at a place, actually we worked there recently when we installed their unit heater at that concrete pumps place. So this time we just did their HVAC maintenance. They've got 3 old Carrier rooftop units there. So yeah, just do their maintenance, inspect everything, filter changes and all that jazz. And then part of our routine inspection is checking the heat exchangers, which I'm sure you guys have seen on my vlogs before. The Carrier units are notorious for showing signs of rusting towards the end of the plate. So there's the tubes for the heat exchanger and they're attached to a plate at the back, and that is notorious for rusting. These 3 units are quite old. 2 of them actually look really beautiful. Their heat exchangers are surprisingly good looking.
See there how it's patinaed?
Yeah.
Mine's shiny. Mine almost looks like it's a brand new heat exchanger. You see that spot.
But the third one, the one in the middle, it had a little crack on it, like a rusty crack. And actually it was really tricky because the top of it looks really nice and everything. But then when you go underneath and you spy right between the heat exchanger plate and the unit basically, there's a little bit of a rusty spot there and it's gone right through.
So this one looks good too. Looks good, except it doesn't look good because if we go underneath, where did I see that? There it is, right there. Come on, baby. I'm not gonna show you on the camera, is it? There she is. That's a big old rusty hole.
Actually, after I found that little rust spot, I went back to the other 2 that I checked before and I rechecked them in that same spot to see if they had any rust. But no, they're actually really in good shape, so. So because that heat exchanger has that rusty hole in it, that is a high risk of carbon monoxide poisoning. So we usually will disconnect the heating completely. So we'll turn off the gas to the unit, we'll turn off the actual gas valve inside the unit, and then sometimes we'll actually disconnect the heating controls from the thermostat terminals.
Is that off now?
Yep.
This exact thing is something that I really hate. It's part of my job that I really don't love, is when you go and do a maintenance inspection, just routine, and you find a cracked heat exchanger and then you got to turn their heat off, and then you got to go and tell them you guys don't have heating until you do this big expensive repair. And sometimes it's in the middle of winter and it's really bad news to deliver. You guys are going to be cold for a while. But luckily in this situation, they have 2 other rooftop units, so they can like kind of balance the air out a little bit while we're waiting for their decision, and B, for that heat exchanger to come in. So hopefully they approve that quickly and we can get their heat back up and running fast. The other filter change and maintenance we had to do was at a Tim Hortons in downtown Vancouver. Which I hate working at. I don't even care who knows it. Actually, one day I posted on my Instagram stories, I was like, I hate working here. And somebody quickly messaged me. They were like, what if they see this? They'll know that you hate. What if they fire you? And I'm like, perfect. That would be perfect. I hate working there. I hate it because it's downtown. Parking sucks. There's usually like needles everywhere. There's usually always so many people in the Tim Hortons. Anyway, it's just a really crappy place to work. And then when you do the filter change, so they've got 3 units inside the ceiling space, and they are all so hard to access the filters. All 3 of them. They're so tough. There's just so much up in the ceiling space. The way the units are situated, they're just really tough. Like, I mean, really, like, what am I supposed to do with that? At the end of the day, it kind of sucks because we can change the filter. It's just so much work. And by the time you've just pulled the filter out, you gotta like smush up the new filter and like get it in there. And by the time you've done that, like, you're just exhausted because it takes so much effort. Anyway, you're teetering on the top of a ladder. Anyway. I will continue ranting about filter access. This is how it's gonna be. One of our jobs this week, I wasn't even gonna include in this vlog because literally we changed one thing on the thermostat. Changed it. So the call or the complaint was that they're like, the heating and cooling is doing something really weird. Like, it seems to have a mind of its own. It's coming on at weird times and turning off, and it's just like, it's all random. So we take a look at the thermostat and I'm like, well, it's the wrong time of day. I'm like, right now it's noon, and your thermostat is saying that it's midnight.
Do you have to explain that?
So I don't know who changed that. Interestingly enough, though, they've got a little lockbox around it. So somebody has to have like the key to open it up to change that. I don't know.
I know it's probably a good test to see if you're watching the car maybe or something.
So I reprogrammed the thermostat, and I also changed the format of the clock from a 12-hour to a 24-hour. So hopefully if somebody goes and changes the time again for whatever reason, that they won't get confused by that time difference again. And the reason I was not going to include this in my vlog is because we literally drove there, pressed a few buttons, and then we drove home. The drive was longer than the job itself. But I'm including it in the vlog because this is the reality of our industry. Like, some calls we literally have to drive there. Sometimes we flick a switch and then we leave. And then sometimes, like this next story, we're there for days and days and days. So let's talk about this air dryer. So last week we were at that air dryer at the metal foundry. We replaced the fan cycling switch, which is still working. I'm gonna go over to a video now with Trev explaining that whole situation real quick. Okay, so for this part of my vlog, I have my brother with me to kind of discuss what happened with the air dryer at the metal foundry, because we had to go back there a number of times this week. The fan cycling switch that we replaced last week is still doing its job, but we've got a couple of other issues, and I've got Trevor here with me because I'm probably going to butcher the explanation, because we had some, I don't know, issues.
Yeah, we got some faulty parts there.
So, could you do me a favor and explain sort of what we saw there this week, and then our plan for next week?
So essentially what we saw there this week was the hot gas bypass was essentially not functioning, or it didn't seem like it was functioning because the air dryer was freezing up. So we checked the hot gas bypass and it wasn't bypassing enough. So we made some slight changes there.
Oil's still frozen. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna make that a little bit higher.
Yeah.
We're gonna set that to like 36 to 38 degrees.
And what does that translate to pressure?
Give me 2 seconds. So we're gonna be about 72 pounds.
72 pounds.
70. Cost is going away.
Yeah.
But this valve is like getting close to its end.
Which then caused the compressor to overheat.
Because when we do the bypass, it's sending more like hot gas through.
So this particular issue, the reason why it overheats the compressor way too fast is because this air dryer never had a hot gas bypass, and we field installed a hot gas bypass to essentially get them a little bit more life out of the unit before replacing the unit. So that's when we added that in.
Is that just because it's old, or is it like undersized or oversized or something? Like,
no, it was old, I think.
Right.
Or it could have possibly been slightly oversized for the amount of air that they were using.
Yeah.
And so essentially that's what we had to do. But in doing that, we also had to replace the expansion valve as well. And so essentially what we're dealing with here is the expansion valve is not allowing us to make adjustments. So I suspect that the screw or the spring behind is not holding its tension anymore,
Right.
or has snapped off.
So because when we were there this week, Trev adjusted the expansion valve, and usually when you adjust those, you do like a really small turn, like a quarter or a half turn, and you like let it settle. It's very sensitive. But we kind of like hoofed it way open and way closed, and we got no adjustments. Like there was no changes.
Yeah.
So we think the spring inside there is like busted.
And the issue on this particular unit is we have to use the expansion valve in conjunction with the hot gas bypass to get our temperature or our pressures right.
Mm.
And so without that expansion valve allowing us to make adjustments to the pressures, there's no way to adjust this system to make it work the way it's supposed to. So we have to replace the expansion valve. We may still have to potentially replace the hot gas bypass valve as well. But we're going to start off with the expansion valve to see if we can get control on the capacity.
Yeah, so step one for us now is to replace that expansion valve probably on Monday or Tuesday, and then kind of see how it's behaving. And then we can decide if we need a new hot gas bypass valve or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And stay tuned for the journey because it takes days to set this machine up. It's very tedious.
And we both just want them to replace the damn thing. But anyway, it's not our decision. It's not our money to spend. But, well, they're spending a lot of money on us, like limping it along. So
Been limping along for 10 years plus.
10 years?
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
So, yeah, some jobs take 2 seconds to do. Some jobs take, like, a few days. And it kind of rips your soul out. Yesterday, Thursday, I spent the day in a training room learning about Tissot ductless split systems.
Like what kind of source information you can find in them and where to find them. So that's where we'll start today, guys.
Basically like a troubleshooting sort of training. It was very technical. I loved it so much, mostly because of the trainer. The trainer was, if you know him, his name is Jerry Wagner, and he was just so down to earth and relatable and cool. Like, he just had some cool stories, personal stories, work stories.
The way it's come loose. And in fact, I'll make a really strong statement. I'll make a guarantee to you. Upon commissioning a system, if you immediately get a sensor error, I guarantee you that that's the resolution to it. It's simple.
But one of my favorite things about him and the way that he did his training was when it came to asking a question, and they all do this. They're all like, I'm going to ask a question and I'm going to wait until an answer. Somebody must answer. I want some like interaction in this training. So he does that, but he was like, okay, I'm going to ask you a question. And then he gets really passionate about it. Like, he was yelling at us. He was like, don't overthink the question. Don't overthink the answer. Don't worry about being wrong. Just say whatever comes to you. Like, what do you feel in your gut? He's like, when I ask you about this pressure switch, what do you feel in your gut? And I freaking love that. I thought that was really cool. Like, I feel like he was opening it up to us to just, you know, blurt out whatever we're thinking. Because there were some of us who were like, saying things, and he's like, you're overthinking it. Just, you know, what's coming from your gut. So I really loved him. And there was like a few points during his training where he like really drove a point home, and you could tell because he would be talking, and then he would just pull like a chair over, and he'd be talking, and then suddenly he'd be on the chair, like making his point.
That I'm going to allow you to put in your pocket and forget it ever happened. It ain't going back in.
He was so good. He was so good.
You know that she recently ran for governor of New York? She lost. Is it Sarah Jessica Parker? I don't know.
Just a couple of personal things before I go. For my birthday 2 weeks ago, Jobber, how interesting, I'm going to talk about Jobber next as well. Anyway, Jobber sent me a little Amazon gift certificate for my birthday, which is just so cool. Like, I just love working with brands that are just so cool like that. Anyway, so I splurged on a book, and I got this book, which I've had my eye on for a little while. The author is Craig, and I know Craig. I met him at AHR last year. And we're on Instagram together and stuff. This book I've had my eye on for a little while because I feel like it's a little bit expensive. This book is $90. But I really think that it's going to be worth every penny. Obviously, I'm not going to show you everything that's in here, but the illustrations and the way that things are explained, I think are really going to help me just be a much better technician. So I'm super excited about that. Refrigerant charging and service procedures. So I'm going to take some time and read through that. And the other thing I'll tell you about Jobber is that I got my ticket for Jobber Summit in the mail. Jobber Summit is coming back on March 6th next year and is an online conference for service-based business entrepreneurs. They've got a whole bunch of keynote speakers. Actually, last year I was one of the speakers, one of the guest panelists, I should say. They've got great speakers. I always learn something unexpected from Jobber Summit, which is so cool. And one of my favorite things is that they offer it in 2 sessions. So they do the exact same like run through either in the morning and then in the afternoon as well. Because sometimes I just can't make it in the morning, so I'll attend the evening session. And I love it. So, Jobber Summit, I have a special link for you if you're interested in joining us on March 6th. I'll leave it in my little description thing below. And yeah, come and get your learn on. All right, guys, I will leave it there for today. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the HVAC Diaries HVAC vlog. It's so good to be here. It's so good to have you here. I look forward to seeing you all next week. A few days, and it kind of rips your soul out. Lights in my face.